You've got the basics of brush pen calligraphy down and you're interested in learning how to flourish next. Flourishing looks so complex and ornate, it can seem intimidating. But I'll let you in on a secret. Just learning 2 basic shapes that you can use over and over again to create your flourishing loops go a long way. I'm going to reveal what those shapes are in today's video. Learning to flourish seems so intimidating, but I really want you to think of flourishing as a way of injecting your lettering and calligraphy work with expressiveness and your personality. There's really no wrong way of going about it. I offer an approach of how to get started and really break down the steps so that it's easy for you to pick up flourishing. My hope is that once you get comfortable with the basics of flourishing, you can let go of the quote-unquote rules and find your own style. The main thing to remember is that the flourishing that you create should not detract from the legibility of your lettering, so the words should still be easily read. Other than that, let's have fun flourishing. First, we're going to start with the just two basic shapes that you can use over and over again to create your flourishing loops. Now I call this the sassy flourishing, S.A.S.S. I'm going to share with you why I call it that. As I shared, how you create flourishing is really an expression of your style, but I do recommend getting to know 2 shapes on a best friend basis because they are the building blocks of your basic flourishing loops. Now don't worry, you already know them quite well because you drew them repeatedly at the start of your calligraphy journey when you first did the drills. I'm just reintroducing them to you. When you're getting started with flourishing, we are going to get sassy, which means looking at these elements in different ways. The first S stands for shape, A stands for angles, S stands for size, and the last S, synthesize. That's when you put together the different shapes. Let's first talk about shape. To get started with flourishing, it's enough for you to get to know intimately only these 2 shapes at the start. The first is O, a loop, and the second is the arch made up of your overturn and underturn. Next, the angle. Once you're comfortable with being able to letter the 2 shapes, the loop and the S, let's try to get more comfortable with turning these shapes. With the O, think about it like an egg that you are rotating clockwise. With the S, think about it like you are creating curly sun rays. See how you can contort it in different ways. Next, we think about the size. You might want to think about varying the size of your O and your S when you're making your flourishes. If you're finding this video helpful so far, do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Lastly, S stands for synthesize, and maybe you might be wondering, what does it mean to synthesize different shapes together? Let me show you. Here you have your O loop, and then you have your overturn and your underturn. Now let's combine our overturn and our underturn. When we elongate them, we get a sideways S shape. If we're going to synthesize this S shape with our O loop, we get something like this. It's already looking like a nice basic flourish. And all it takes is just synthesizing two shapes. Let's go further. Let's think about angles. If we were to vary the angle, we might get two ovals like this. Which will look perfect if we were to combine them with a Y letter. So can you see, we're starting just with two basic shapes, the O and the S, varying them in different sizes, different angles, different shapes, and synthesizing them. Even a flourish that may look as complex as this one can be broken down into the four components that we talked about, which is synthesis, angles, shapes, and sizes. As you can see, we have the synthesis of the different shapes. You can recognize the ovals and the third small one. You can recognize the synthesis of the shapes. We talked about ovals, and we have our S curve here. And we talk about sizes. We have different sizes of our ovals. This is a big one, a smaller one on the left, and the much smaller one here encased within the second oval. So even this can be broken down into its components. That's what I'm going to show you next. You can see that even the most complex flourishing is the result of the synthesis of something that is of different shapes. So here we have our S shape and we have our ovals. It's also the synthesis of the shapes at different angles. As you can see, this curve is actually a different angle of a part of the S. Now even within the S, you can see different sizes. The incomplete oval at the end of the S on the left is a lot smaller than the incomplete oval of the S on the right side. So here you have a complete oval that's actually encased within the S. So let's see how this all plays out. We are going to start with this downward sloping curve, and it will transition into this complete oval, and this complete oval will turn into an S curve, and it will cross over this first curve. So here is what it looks like. I want to show you even more examples how those two shapes we covered, the oval and the arches, are really the foundation of all flourishing. So here I have 3 examples. As you can see, I am looking at the shapes at different angles. Let's look at our O. This is a different angle from this lying down one, and also a different angle from something that's lying on the other side. So as you can see, these are incomplete ovals, but they're at different angles. Flourishing is also made out of the synthesis of the two shapes. As you can see, I always have the S shape together with the ovals. And lastly, we look at sizes. Depending on the size of our S shape or the size of our ovals, it will give us different kinds of flourishing. This flourish is really the result of two basic shapes. So let's start with the first one. Now, if we have something like this, which gives us next, for something a little bit more complex, we're looking at this flourish. Now we're looking at this flourish. And it's really the combination of these synthesis of different shapes, different sizes of the ovals, and slightly different angles. So here we go. So have fun playing around with your flourishing, synthesizing different angles, shapes, and sizes. Then you can tag on these flourishing loops to other shapes as to be able to get your flourished letter. Practice doing your sassy loops, S-A-S-S-Y, to build some muscle memory. And if you do it long enough, creating these loops will come naturally. If you want to stylize your brush pen calligraphy with flourishing and embellishments, I would love to invite you to my course. It focuses on helping you to create endless calligraphy designs using basic shapes and modern calligraphy. I love breaking down for you what looks complex into simple principles. Now again, I want to remind you that all these steps that I'm sharing with you are all aesthetic choices. I really wish to present brush pen lettering to you in a way that will evoke joy. It's not about what is correct, because I never want you to feel like what you can produce right now is not good enough or, based on comparisons to other people's work. Just take all these pointers that I'm sharing like part of a buffet of ideas that you get to decide what and how much to influence your own lettering journey. That spirit of experimentation and the learning process are the very vehicles that brought joy in my lettering journey. So I want that for you too. Comparison and frustration of not getting it right are the stop signs on the joy journey. So just let it flow, no matter if what comes out on paper looks very different from the examples that you see of others, or that it looks very different from the vision that you have in your head about what looks right. And actually, if your lettering doesn't look the same like everybody else's, it's actually a great thing. That's part of an experimentation journey for you to look at what do you like or what you don't like about what you just created. Then you can evolve, continuing to experiment and grow into your own style of lettering. That's going to be deeply satisfying than just copying another person's style. It's so much more gratifying. Lettering also becomes something that is nourishing to you because you are enabling your own soul artistry to come forth without judgment. In the next video of the series, I'll be sharing some tips on how certain letters can be used to add your flourishes. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to watch more similar tutorials. See you in the next video.